Okay, so hello to everyone once again. As you see from the title, I don't deal with water services. I don't deal with water at all. My research topic is I deal mainly with human rights, international criminal law, and international humanitarian law, which you will see from the presentation itself, that I try to manage somehow the topic of the panel in these matters. As illicit treatment is something different, which we've heard in this panel today, I decided that we are going to first put it in a place, define it. We will see where its place in the international law, and this knowledge will be hence then applied to the topic of water. First, just a fast insight to the water as a method of illicit treatment. Then I will deal with water from the perspective of armed conflict. And at the end, we will tell something about the current trends as the European Court of Human Rights made some kind of relationship between environmental law, illicit treatment, and possibly even water as a right. So first, I will start with the definition of illicit treatment. Illicit treatment as such has different notions. First of all, that's the most known and most aggravated form of torture. Then the cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. The most important elements which are necessary when we will then later deal with the right to water is that the right itself is protecting human dignity. Our colleague also mentioned that the right to water is itself the right to human dignity, or it's part of the right to human dignity. And here we see very similar elements. The element which has to be fulfilled in order to speak about torture or illicit treatment is, first of all, it has to cause severe pain or suffering. This can be mental or physical. The suffering has to be perpetrated intentionally. And in an international level, we speak about the relationship between a public official and the person who is a victim, who is in a vulnerable position. This vulnerable position will be later on seen in the position when the water is denied. If we put the right to be safe from torture, from illicit treatment, the prohibition of torture itself, we see several international law documents which stipulate the prohibition. The Geneva Conventions, which set several norms, which include explicitly the prohibition of torture, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and its Article 5, the International Convention on Political Rights, some regional human rights system like the American Convention on Human Rights, which includes the prohibition of torture in its right to human treatment, and the Inter-American Convention to Prevent and Punish Torture, which establishes the committee which has the duty, the goal to go into countries to somehow make some kind of preventive measures and oversee the work in some places like detention facilities, schools, hospitals, where there is a possibility that the person who is in a vulnerable position may observe some kind of illicit treatment or may be the victim of the illicit treatment. The prohibition of torture is included in the African Charter and the Arab Charter on Human Rights, as well as these are the regional human rights system, which are a little bit further. However, we have to mention some regional human rights system which is closer to us, which we may observe from two perspectives. First of all is the Council of Europe's framework and the European Convention for the Protection of Human Rights. Its prohibition of torture is enhanced in Article 3. We may see that it's quite short and vague article. This proves some characteristics, as the prohibition of torture is part of customary law, part of jus cogens. There are no exemptions for it. If we scan through the European Convention, we see that usually the longer the article is, the more exceptions are there from it. However, Article 3 is very short. There are no derogations from it. We see that in several international treaty frameworks, there is a derogation clause which enables that in some certain extraordinary circumstances and situations, the countries are able to act a little bit differently, to derogate, to make some kind of special measures which are not in compliance, aligned with the treaty articles. However, prohibition of torture is absolutely the part where there is no derogation from it. And the Council of Europe framework is, in the matter of prohibition of torture, is also established by the European Convention, which establishes the Committee for the Prevention of Torture, which works similarly to the one which I mentioned in the American system. However, if we observe the prohibition itself from the EU perspective, there is the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights and its Article 4, which openly and explicitly followed the wording in Article 3 in the European Convention, and which is established by the Council of Europe's framework. So, from these definitions and from these treaties, we see some basic characteristics which will be later applied to the relationship with the water. First of all, the prohibition of itself is protecting the human dignity. Its necessity is to preserve the mental and the physical integrity of a person. It's a basic and natural right. It applies to everyone, everywhere, at all time. Therefore, it's a fundamental value, which is absolute. As I mentioned, there is no derogation from it in no circumstance. And therefore, it's a jus cogens right, which has to be collectively guaranteed. If you observe prohibition generally, and this is just a remark on the side, you may see that practically there are many issues with the topic. It's nice that we have several treaties. The UN Convention Against Torture is party to, there are member states, more than 170 member states who are party to this convention. However, the practice is a little bit different. There are several, even democratic countries, which still use, they call it coercive measures, torture or illicit treatment as a tool to get information usually. But this is another topic. Very fastly, torturing with water during peace, there are two well-known methods. First of all is the waterboarding method. I don't want to go into details since it's not that important, but it's mainly a physical method, and the Chinese water torture is mainly a mental method, which is using drops onto the face of a person in order to torture this person. For us, however, I think for me, let's be honest, for me, it's more interesting to oversee water as a tool which can be used during armed conflict. International humanitarian law in its treaties, the Geneva Conventions, does not explicitly mention that water can be used as a method, as a tool to get something from the belligerent party. We see that, for example, using poison is explicitly mentioned. The prohibition of using poison is explicitly mentioned in Geneva Conventions. the destroying of dams and water production system as a method how to fight the belligerent party is also explicitly mentioned. However, the topic of how to treat prisoners of war does not entail denial of water as such, as a tool how to achieve certain goal. We see in the Berlin Rules of Water Resources, in its 10th chapter, that water can be used as a method how to achieve something. However, these Berlin Rules are not binding. If we derive certain basic characteristic from the water, we see that it can easily make group vulnerable. It's easy to get something from a group if we deny them water. These people, for example, prisoners of war, has to have some kind of minimal level of water as drinking water, hygiene, for their hygiene. So it's very easy for the group which they are keeping the prisoners of war captive, it's very easy to get some information to punish them and to use water as a tool to torture them. Hence, water can be used either individually or generally as a method how to combat the belligerent party. It's easy to cut them from the water, but the truth is that usually in these situations, the population and the civilian population can be easily affected as well. Currently, some non-governmental organizations claim, in this situation is the Pacific Institute, which claims that from 2020 there were 62 conflicts where water was used as a weapon. This created the new phenomena, the new notion of the environmental or eco-refugee status. This refugee status is the cause of an armed conflict where the result are some environmental disasters, where the people have to flee their countries in order to get either water, get human treatment. Hence, the water is an easy tool how to use it as a method how to torture people, how to get their goal, how to weaken the belligerent party. If we move to the current trends, which are really much related to the eco-refugee status, we see that the European Court of Human Rights, in a quite recent case, brought up a new topic, how we can make a relationship between the Article 3, the illicit treatment, and the environmental situation around us. The case Duarte was deemed inadmissible because of different reasons. In other countries, because there was lack of jurisdiction, territorial jurisdiction, and in Portugal there were a non-exhaustion of domestic remedies. However, it brought up an interesting interpretation. It understood that environmental harm may be understood as degrading treatment of those people who are in a vulnerable position. In this situation, there were children who were claiming that they are they have continuous feelings of fear. They are not capable of breaking this fear is capable of breaking the moral and physical resistance of a person. It brought up the phenomena of the climate anxiety, which is a constant fear from climate changes. Certain people are claiming that this powerful distress may cause such a loss of hope that they are not able to see that they will have a future, and thus it may lead to some kind of degrading treatment from the countries. So if we observe these people are in a vulnerable position, so the definition of torture is fulfilled. These people have some kind of pain, experience some kind of pain, and in a way we may understood as a violation of illicit treatment of the Article 3. It didn't come to the fora whether it reached the minimum level of the severity, and I keep this question, or I give you this question: what do you think that such understanding, if it's the future? And in the context of water, I think we may find some kind of relationship that maybe in the future we will see the raising of claims connected to the global warming, which is causing drying up territories, and maybe it may lead to the violation of degrading treatment in the future. As concluding, as water is a life-giving object, it's easy to make some kind of group in either during an armed conflict or during the peace, to make a group a victim, and as water can easily make a person to the situation where he experiences a vulnerable position. In the situation of an armed conflict, when there are prisoners of war, these are under the force of the belligerent party. Hence, the definition of a public authority and a vulnerable victim is quite similar as well. So we may observe that water can be easily used, even during peace or even during armed conflict, as a tool to conduct illicit treatment, to conduct torture. And as regards to the current trends in front of the European Court of Human Rights, we may see some kind of shift in the recent, let's say, 40, 50 years. And I give up to you, it's up to you to make a decision to think whether broadening the understanding of torture, prohibition of torture, which was once put onto the jus cogens level, to the customary law, one of the highest articles, highest rights ever, whether the broadening of the understanding isn't really causing some kind of devastation, and is it really helping the rights as such? Thank you.